Yeah, I've got really bad poorliness. In fact, I might get the blanket. I am going to get the blanket.
If I was your best friend,
I'm Batman.
I want you round. Yes, guys, and welcome back to the BrokeCast, episode 8. Will's ill, but he's still here to provide insights to you lovely viewers. Look at this dedication right here, guys. He's here with his blanket on. We've got the AC on and he's got a blanket on, which is...
I'm poorly.
He's poorly. He's got man flu.
Oi, you definitely can't say that.
He's got man flu.
Yeah, I have got man flu.
He's got man flu. But we couldn't miss an episode because, wow.
Everything's happened.
It's kicking off, boys and girls. It's literally kicking off within the crypto space. A lot of news dropped yesterday. A lot of market movements happened yesterday. Quick market update. Bitcoin went like this, then went back the cup like that.
That's some good TA right there.
There you go. A bit of lines there, crossing there.
Could go down, could go up, could go sideways.
Who knows? I think it's going up there. Yeah, so obviously the Binance stuff, which we're going to get into. Alts are ripping today, this morning.
Yeah.
A lot of alts are up like 15%. Some are even gone higher than that. This reminded me a lot like 2 weeks ago kind of thing. Total 2. Bounced off 50 on the RSI. Look, it's looking nice right now. The markets are suddenly looking nice again after a week of a bit of negativity. But
a bit of negativity, yet realistically, Bitcoin's price is still up. Like not even including yesterday's news.
Yeah.
We've had like negative talk and we've not set a local low.
Exactly. Bitcoin's held.
We're not broke the local lows as well.
It's not broke local lows. It's held where it is despite all the drama, let's say, that's been going on over the past couple of days. But let's just jump straight into it because let's not beat around the bush.
Let's not.
A lot's going on.
There is.
A lot's happened yesterday. CZ stepped down as CEO of Binance. Binance had to pay, was it $4.6 billion?
4.2, yeah.
4.2,
yeah.
Same thing, give or take a few $100 billion worth of fines. One of the biggest, I guess it's as big as the FTX case. I guess it's not as big as that.
Well,
in terms of profile,
the Department of Justice was saying like it's the biggest one, like one of the biggest they've ever taken down because they obviously slept on FTX.
Yeah, they slept on FTX. But yeah, so Department of Justice came out, did this whole bloody stage setup kind of thing of, we
did it.
We did it. We've cleansed the crypto space. We got him. Like they've just slayed down like a big.
Dragon.
Just what I mean. Like,
we slayed the dragon.
We've done it. Like they've done their job basically for once. Yeah. That's what it seemed like.
Only 10 years. It's only letting him run for 10 years.
Yeah, I know. They've already let him do what he's done. They've let him do all the bad stuff and then.
Mate, 80
but they've got him now, guys. So don't worry about it.
Yeah, fucking protected.
So now you guys can all invest in crypto.
You can sleep well at night.
Yeah. So this is what it.
Big bad CZs in a cage.
That's all it is, though.
Even though he's not.
It's just a big show for them to show to the public. Hey guys, look, we're protecting you as investors now. Nothing to worry about now. Look, we are on it. We're doing what we promised that we'd always do. Despite the SEC taking several losses this year, they've got obviously a big payday on the back of it because ultimately you guys have to remember that's what it's about as well. Obviously they want to protect investors and do their job in that aspect, but they want paydays as well. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
they're trying to sue people for large chunks of money.
Yeah, I want to just touch on a few things you just said there. So one is the SEC specifically, they actually weren't there. Which is a big thing that everyone's pointing out. Is the SEC are almost like a road regulator right now. The CFTC were there, the Department of Justice, the Treasury, all there on stage together talking. Gary Gensler, a little spoiled child, is like, I wanted to do it. I wanted to take down CZ, and he's just not there. And so for whatever reason that is, he's out here doing his own thing. Where you've got literally the Department of Justice, Treasury, and CFTC all together bringing in actions like that, and Gary Gensler can't bring in an action against anyone. What we think of Library's his biggest success so far, which was I think they fined them for 500, eventually got a few million and then sent the company under and it's good one, protection.
Yeah, maybe he was a bit ashamed.
Yeah.
That everyone else around him is doing their job correctly and he can't even win a small lawsuit in the grand scheme of things when you compare it to the Binance one. And these guys have just come in and done it I'd say fairly quickly. The turnaround was quite quick in this, even though obviously CZ and Binance have been on the US's radar for a long time. And this is something obviously we both kind of tweeted out yesterday. What does this mean for the crypto space? Obviously the news isn't great because they were alleging that he allowed all these, I don't know if we're allowed to say these words on YouTube just in case.
But just
the
organisations that shouldn't have transactions, but
we'll call them the bad organisations.
But look, I'm not defending CZ. I'm not saying that you shouldn't play by the rules. I think you should. But there was no rules to start with. And even if he tried to play by the rules and tried to go in and get regulated, there's no way that anyone would have even spoke to him. They'd have been like, no, you absolutely can't do that.
Yeah.
And he's grown the crypto space from, he's grown the biggest exchange in the world by like what, at least 3x volume of what Coinbase is. I don't know the stats off the top of my head. But I don't hate him. I've got nothing against him. I'm thinking,
not really.
Yeah, okay, maybe he did some stuff that wasn't by the book, and maybe he did fund some groups, or not necessarily fund groups, but maybe he allowed payments, or didn't have the right legislation or rules or regulations in place to stop the payments, I think is more likely.
Yeah.
But he didn't commingle funds in a way that Sam Bankman-Fried did, where when people did have a bank run on them, like people had a bank run on Binance last night, 1.4 billion left the exchange after the 4 billion lawsuit. Binance still operating today. I've seen loads of people tweeting saying that, oh yeah, my funds came in 15 minutes, like normal. So there's one big difference. It's like they're out here shaking their fists saying, oh, we've caught this bad actor.
Yeah.
But then they let the biggest bad actor slip under the radar. And I think it's like a bit of a, there's two sides of it that I think. One is, and this like America going after like an Asian looking, because I think he's actually Canadian or American, crypto exchange that sunk the golden boy of crypto.
Yeah.
So there's one side of it where they're like, oh, we got him, like he shouldn't have done that to us, blah, 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 like victory lap. And the other side of it is just that now the US can come out after fumbling the bag with FTX and say, oh, look, we do protect you. Like you were saying, oh, we do protect you, we've got this. And then they said yesterday, they should put out a clear message to everyone in crypto, like, we'll come after you if you don't play by the rules. Literally what Janet Yellen was saying.
It's ridiculous. Like Will was touching on it before we came on camera. Like if you look at the demographic of people who were at that talk, and like obviously look, they're clever people. They are good at what they do to a certain extent, but they're old.
They're Jurassic.
They're old. Like they're all like looking like they're in the 70s. Like they're all looking like they can barely like hold themselves up.
No, they can't even speak properly.
I'm not trying to be horrible or anything like that, but it just kind of emphasises what a lot of people have been saying for years now, and that's that the system that we've currently got in place is just severely outdated, not only in technology, but with the people who are actually running the system right now. The people who are enforcing all these rules are outdated themselves. Like they don't have this forward-looking approach as opposed to like myself and you, for example, who are obviously a lot younger than them. So this is where I think Western countries in general need to really improve on drastically over the next 5 years or so, is bringing in maybe some forward-looking people into their regulatory authorities, because we can see people here in Dubai with Vara. I guarantee if you walked into their headquarters, you'd see a lot of people in their 30s and 40s who are, really forward-looking and aren't really trying to stifle innovation. I feel like that's where the West is going wrong at the moment. So,
well, I think specifically in America, one of the big issues they've got is like you pay to make rules.
Yeah.
You pay to make rules. So like if you go into the SEC and talk to someone at the SEC, for example, like Ripple did, met with the SEC for 5 years, once a month, then you get sued.
Yeah.
They're trying to catch you out for doing something wrong. Whereas here, if you went into Vara once a month for 5 years, I'm pretty sure they'd be like, do you want to come work with us and help us regulate? And like, this is what I think you should do differently. Then you say to them, oh, I'm doing that because of this. They probably would listen to you. I feel I've had that feeling since I've been here, and they're the biggest differences. It's like the West are stuck in their ways because they literally dominate things at the minute, but there's cracks showing, and I feel like even this display of like, oh, you've got the crypto baddies, shows you how big the cracks are in the US system, because they're obviously worried about it, at least a little bit, because they don't come on stage. You've got, like I said to you, like we're saying, the Treasury and the DOJ and the CFTC all together, like almost pumping the air, like how brilliant they are protecting the US financial system, if they're not worried about what they're protecting it from.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But do you think this now removes a lot of negativity around crypto? Do you think I feel like this gives the West and like USA in particular the green light to now start being proactive about crypto, because they've now took down their biggest like target, so to say, or slowly, or chipping into that anyway. Now this is the perfect time for them to potentially start adopting the technology and working with it, opposed to, or do you think they're still after more paydays?
I think there's going to be a lot that comes from this.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot that comes from this. I think that one of the biggest things that I was worried about in big talk has been Tether. USDT. But after reading some tweets yesterday from, I don't even want to missay a name, so I can't even remember, but I'll give you the link after this to put it in the video. She was saying that Tether have like one of the biggest treasury holdings like in the world, like even bigger than most countries. So they're not going to be going after Tether, who are one of the biggest treasury buyers, when literally at the minute they can't barely auction off treasuries.
True.
So
That's a good point.
So that's one thing that I thought was going to happen, but now I actually don't. I think Tether might have dodged the bullet by doing that. I don't know, like I can't see the future. But another point that I read, which is very interesting, that I thought about is part of the deal that CZ will have done with Binance and the DOJ will be to release, well, it has to have been to release like all the payment providing that they've done. And otherwise, how would the DOJ know that they were paying or letting people pay from certain jurisdictions? So that means every single person who's used Binance is under the spec right now in the US. So whether there's going to be new lawsuits that come from the back of that and we might start bringing the hammer down, I actually don't know. But on the opposite side of that, like we said at the start, they've cleansed the bad blood in crypto just in time for big boys BlackRock and JP Morgan and Fidelity and the likes to come through with their lovely regulated and probably exactly by the book, because they wrote the book, Bitcoin spot ETF, and probably some sort of exchange, which we're going to potentially talk about in a sec, because we're going to the launch of a government-backed exchange next week.
Exactly. Just before we go into that though, a lot of talk on Twitter saying BlackRock had a lot of influence in this whole lawsuit against Binance, and a BlackRock ETF wouldn't be approved in a world where Binance is such a dominant force and CZ is at the top of that hierarchy kind of thing, which it does kind of make sense, because BlackRock's obviously, they want to remain the powerhouse, especially if they're entering like the crypto space. They want to have control, as they have control of like your traditional financial markets right now. So I guess there's a lot of good and bad things to this story. In my opinion, net positive.
Yeah, and I just want to say, like, the other thing that is kind of weird, and we talked about this off camera, is like CZ's chilling. Like the deal that CZ's got is a flipping good deal. Likelihood is, people are saying he might get jail time, but likelihood is he won't get jail time. He's going to have, from what I've read from attorneys, this isn't me, I'm not a law, I don't know anything about law, so I could be completely wrong. But from what I've read online, likelihood is he's going to get 6 to 18 months of house arrest and some probation. And then, like, he can't work in crypto for 3 years and he pays $80 million, and what's he made, like 20 billion something?
Yeah.
So that deal is unbelievable. If you see Z, you're probably sitting there thinking like, oh, that's better than anything I could have ever expected. So that shows to me that they wanted this done now and quickly, because otherwise they're not going to offer him a deal like that. If they had a lot of real issues with him, like Sam Bankman-Fried, for example, he's gone to prison for like multi-life.
Yeah, true.
They don't. They have some issues. They wouldn't be finding them $4 billion if they didn't have some issues.
Yeah.
But like, realistically, and no matter what they throw in it, this sort of thing happens all the time in financial markets. Look how many fines like JP Morgan and that's had in their time. So they obviously can't have too much of a solid evidence against him. Otherwise, they're just not going to be offered a way out like that when they want to make him like a poster child for what not to do.
Yeah. My question is then, why didn't like the Department of Justice or all these like regulatory authorities come out and put a big show on when Sam Bankman-Fried was like proven guilty kind of thing?
Because they were asleep at the wheel. Like, America have been asleep at the wheel. That's why they're making such a big deal out of this. It's like, why did the Department of Justice come out and shouting about it with all of them together? Because they've actually enforced something, and everyone's been wanting them to enforce stuff and create like regulation or whatever. Gary Gensler met with Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX 4 times. Still, he got away with the biggest scandal in history.
So they're almost like ashamed of it. And I mean, the sentences and the deal as well that CZ's grabbed here kind of shows that as well. So Sam Bankman-Fried's got over a century's worth of jail time, like no probation either, like he's going to be in prison. Whereas CZ's like just been banned from crypto for 3 years. Yes, people are speculating 18 months in prison, but like you said, this is likely just to be like a probation and house arrest kind of thing, one of those ones. So, but yet they've put on this massive spectacle that, they've done something major here.
Yeah. And the CZ's made all that money. He's only paying 80 million fine. Sam Bankman-Fried's worth 0.
Yeah.
Like, there's a big difference between the two things that are happening in like a realistic term, but then also in like a political sense, that the political should have been when it was Sam Bankman-Fried. Everyone should have been like, oh my God, this shouldn't happen. Boom, boom, boom. We're coming down on crypto. But it wasn't because because he bribed so many officials. Realistically, I don't know if I'm allowed to really say that, but it's true. Like he's in the pocket of everyone.
It's a fact. We can see that now.
And yeah, CZ didn't do everything by the book, and I'm not condoning it, but I'm saying who realistically does in the financial world, especially when there is no book.
Exactly. I think that's the main thing, that there's no rule book to play by. Like, yes, obviously, like you said, he's done certain things incorrectly, but can you really be that mad at someone for not implementing those rules when, you know, like the SEC, for example, or these major like authorities aren't actually laying down the rules for you in plain black and white?
No.
I guess some people argue that there is black and white rules, but
there isn't. There's not for a new system like this.
This is what I mean.
But like, he can't have deviated too far from the rules, is my point, because otherwise he wouldn't be offered this.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be sitting in his house with 20 billion in the bank.
Yeah, true.
If he deviated too far off the rules, because Sam Bankman-Fried deviated too far off the rules and he's got 100 years in prison. For example, even like there is no rules because they've been trying to sue Ripple for the specific rule breaking.
Yeah.
And well, this is SEC, which is different, but it's still a government like regulatory body. And so far at 0-2, and there's one more piece of like legality that they have to pass through. But so far, 2 out of the 3 convictions are actually false. So it's a difficult one.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, so
I'm bullish.
Yeah,
I'm so flipping bullish, bro.
I mean, it goes back to the point that we tried to state at the start of this episode. Like, this is major. It's major news. It's huge news. It's something that they've been going after for years now. And yet, crypto. Yes, we obviously experienced a bit of a retrace in the market. Certain altcoins bled a little bit.
Yeah.
But right now, we're still back at that price range.
Yeah.
What happened in the FTX collapse? We sunk
lows.
like 20, 25%, 30% in like a space of a day.
Yeah.
But yet now, the market's really just drained out all the sellers, and it's in a place where such big news doesn't actually have detrimental effects. And like this book that we're reading right now, we've both read this technical analysis book by Murphy. The Bible, we call it.
Let's get it.
Even in there, he specifically states within this book is that when major like bullish or bearish news comes out, and it doesn't necessarily, so obviously like right now we're in a fairly bullish like market cycle right now in terms of like the past month and a half of price action. When you get bearish news, he says if it doesn't affect the price action significantly as opposed to like previous events have, the market is really bullish. And it makes sense theoretically when you obviously just think about it in simple terms, but it does make sense.
Yeah, and this is something I actually want to drill into everyone watching this right now, is like take a step back and have a look at what's just happened. Potentially the worst news we've ever seen in crypto. Like the biggest exchange have their CEO removed, he gets arrested, they get fined $4 billion. Binance, as far as I know it so far, hasn't gone bankrupt, and the price of crypto has probably fluctuated 2%.
That's nuts.
If you're not bullish right now, like, you're getting brainwashed by social media. You're getting absolutely brainwashed. I'm the most bullish I've ever been, genuinely. Could we come down 5-10% more while people work things out? I don't know. I actually don't think so, but possibly. Could some more news come off the back of this that flushes a little bit of extra selling in?
Maybe.
I don't know. But realistically, the sky's the limit now. That the runway's set out.
Realistically, I feel like this is just setting the stage for something big. I think it's like clean as slate, and now it's ready to like for people to get involved with it. That's just the way I'm thinking about it. Some people have got a complete polar opposite view on it, and they're just really bearish about it. But I do really think it's just cleaning the slate, and it's just setting the stage. So
the bears are lost though. The bears have got to be lost because if you can't crash the price on the initial news. And then the fact that we were waiting for the DOJ to come out and like give us some more news, if that doesn't crash the price, and then the DOJ just talk about everything we've already seen on Twitter, then what is going to? What could possibly happen? Matt's could bang his elbow. That could happen. By the way, I was telling my clients, do not try and short Coinbase below $70. It's going to hold 70. We got to like 69.50 and now we're back up at 100.
Really? That's what we do.
And the biggest hedge fund in the world out of Japan bought some Coinbase stock last week.
Hey, if you know, you know, and that's why you should be watching this because we have got some alpha deep in there somewhere.
And we're 2 out of 2 on calls. We called Sam Bankman-Fried that we didn't think he was going to be a good guy. Go and check out our weekly roundup YouTubes that are on my YouTube channel.
They are on his YouTube. They weren't obviously as good as these podcasts, but this is when we first started doing podcasts, and we specifically said, well, you were really heavily saying that it was too good to be true. Sam Bankman-Fried is acting like this godchild within the crypto space, and that you didn't trust him. 2 months later, the whole revelations came out, and then once that was all kicking off, and we were still making these podcasts, you were saying, okay, cool, but now I think CZ's in trouble because I think the US are going to come after him in some sort of way. Yes, it took a long time to play out, but a year later, or almost a year later, look what's happened.
Yeah, and I actually think that because of that, they don't really want to destroy crypto. That shows me also, thinking about that, just as I'm talking, that they don't want to destroy crypto, because if they did want to destroy it, they'd have gone hammer and nail after CZ, straight after, and we'd have crashed crypto to whatever. But what they've done is, like I said to you off camera, they've given Binance a year to collateralize their books if they weren't fully collateralized. Then they've come after them to take
That's
4
true,
billion.
yeah. Because imagine if Binance went down when FTX went down. What would have happened to crypto? Like, I don't even want to think about it, because I feel like that would have been really, really bad. I feel like we almost wouldn't even still be recovering from it to this point.
The first and second biggest exchanges.
Yeah, I feel like that at the same time it would have just been awful for crypto. And I guess this kind of proves that if they really wanted to, they could have done it, at least maybe not at the exact same time, but like maybe a month later. If they really did want to destroy crypto, they could have really, put the nail in the coffin, so to say, with that.
Funny how they're not going after Coinbase, the American-based IPO'd company.
Oh no, they're fine in there.
Yeah, Coinbase is sitting there like, cheers, boys!
Right, moving on. I feel like we've spoken a lot. About Binance news. Let's try and relate it to what's going on in the wider space. We've got M2 launching. Yep. We're going to the launch event next week. Is it convenient timing that all this Binance stuff has come out at the same time that M2 is launching? Are the US stepping up their game to make their equivalent, like a US almost exclusive powerhouse of an exchange?
Maybe.
To compete with ones like M2?
M2 being the first government-backed exchange like that we really know of in at least the developed or developing world. Out of Abu Dhabi, we've been invited to go to the launch party next week.
Yep.
So that's cool. Excited for that on Tuesday. I want to go and see how things are going down there. But yeah, on to your point, maybe like things are happening really quickly this year with Hong Kong coming out and embracing crypto. Obviously, the SEC are in talks with BlackRock about their spot ETF, and then now you've got M2, the UK coming forward and creating legislation about crypto, rolling it out in early 2024. The EU with MiCA, stablecoin regulation. The UK coming out and saying stablecoin could be payment for payments. The EU coming out and saying they're continuing with their pilot of the CBDC testing. Like, it's all, this year is really like been really, really good for crypto.
Yeah.
Even though even price action, to be honest, like sentiment doesn't feel like how good it is.
Listen, guys, the race is heating up.
It is.
The race is heating up, and this is why I said this whole Binance thing is kind of setting the stage now for the next phase, let's say, of I don't want to just narrow it down to crypto, I just want to say digital asset and like the adoption of that kind of technology into our everyday lives.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got M2, like you said, the UK have released their crypto-friendly framework coming in early next year, and now we've got the US taking down Binance. Are they now going to start adopting the technology? Will we now see BlackRock ETF come in very, very soon? I think was it January 11th, I think, the next deadline for the ARK ETF. A lot of people on Twitter now saying, obviously, if the spot Bitcoin ETF is going to be approved, BlackRock are obviously going to be approved first, just because they're the powerhouses. So a lot of people saying it's going to happen within the next 30, 40 days. Yes, we've heard that before. All I'm saying is, don't get caught up in this negative news about Binance. You need to look at what's going on. They want you to know certain things, but if you really do try and piece the puzzle together, the race is heating up. Don't be on the wrong side of it.
I think like the technology race in general is going to hit the world like a bullet train. It already is. Like all of a sudden, we're transitioning into a digital age in terms of finance.
Yep.
You've got all the shenanigans happening with OpenAI and AI technology and Microsoft in general.
Yep.
Everyone is scrambling to try and be a part of the race, if not at the front. Countries all over the world, all of a sudden are like, oh crap, like this is coming whether we like it or not, like the US. So let's make an enforcement action, let's clean it up and let's get involved, because otherwise we're going to get left behind. I think they're realising that.
Yep. And at the same time as well, just touching onto it, Argentina's new president as well,
Yeah.
who's been elected.
Javier the hippie.
Triple H, we like to call him. Very proactive when it comes to, well, he's got a proactive stance when it comes to crypto and digital assets in general. He talks very negatively about Argentina's current economic situation with the peso, and how he wants to adopt like a digital dollar or something like that. I think he wants to replace the peso with a dollar. I think that's what his plan was. But obviously he's been very vocal on how he thinks digital assets are going to really benefit the financial system in the future. And I think this sheds a really positive light on crypto in general, because it kind of shows countries are now are welcoming this type of technology with open arms. We spoke about HSBC and Metaco partnership last week, obviously.
Oh, yeah, there was another partnership yesterday, by the way.
Another one?
Yeah.
Okay, before we go into that, obviously this doesn't specifically include custody of cryptocurrencies, but what I'm trying to stress is obviously HSBC are now making that transition into digital assets. Again, that's net positive for crypto in general, whether they're including it in their custodial service or not, because it's the same type of technology, it's the same kind of thesis behind it. But
yeah, definitely. Metaco partnered yesterday with BBVA Switzerland.
oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Crypto.
Who are they?
They're one of the biggest banks in the world. They used to sponsor Barcelona at football, remember? BBVA.
Oh, BBVA.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the Swiss
Legal
BBVA
BBVA,
bank, yeah.
That's what it used
And
to be called.
so another big bank now partnering with, well, that's partnering with Ripple, because Ripple own Metaco.
Yep. Wow.
Like,
Making moves.
and I watched a clip yesterday. I don't want to get his name wrong either, because obviously I'm ill, can't think properly. I think he's called, I didn't want to try and guess his name. But he was basically saying, like, no matter what you think about XRP and Ripple, there's no other crypto company coming out with partnerships left, right and centre. Like yesterday or the day before, they announced like 36 ODL corridors in African countries. If that was any other crypto, the price would be ripping. Yeah. But it's because people don't like XRP specifically, and we're still in like a phase where sentiment pushes price, and that's it really.
Yeah.
And when we start to get a bit more mature and realise like what Ripple are actually doing and what they've done, like things are going to pop off for XRP. Like you even had Dan Tapiero talk to, when he was talking to Raoul Pal the other day, he was like, look, companies like Ripple have already achieved network adoption. They're a $10 billion company, and I don't know anything about them, and maybe like that's my own fault, and like obviously I've missed that, and I shouldn't have. But they're a $10 billion company.
Mm. But yeah, just to conclude all that kind of section, I'll just echo what I literally just said. It's a race. I've said this week after week. Said it in the previous podcast episode. It's a race. It's heating up. Whether you see this Binance thing as negative news, I think you're incorrect by thinking like that. I think it's really, again, just kind of clearing the US now, setting their stage for their progression that they're going to make, in my opinion. With that, I guess obviously we'll find out over the next year or two. But yeah, I think it's net bullish news. But final segment of the podcast, price action. What do we think is going to happen next? It's still extremely hard to decipher what's going on next. I feel like the market needed what happened yesterday. I feel like the market was in the middle, just kind of waiting for some sort of catalyst to come out. Things went a bit quiet. I think I'm now in the camp that alts are going to start rallying again. In my opinion, we might start seeing that, and at the same time, we're going to see Bitcoin definitely head up to the latter stages of $39,000 at least. That's the first target for me, because obviously there's a lot of liquidity up there. We spoke about it on our Twitters, so if you want more information on that, head over to our Twitters. But there's a lot of liquidity floating up around, I think it was like 39,800. And then you've got just to add another spanner in the works, there's even more liquidity above it. So is that going to start? Is that going to cause a little, effect that we saw in this initial run up that we experienced? Because it's the exact same thing. We identified a bit of liquidity, a strong bit of liquidity at certain prices, and as soon as it ripped through that, more shorts were opened, and those shorts were just getting squeezed, and we just shot through it. A lot of people, 40K, like we said, I think it was last week or the week before, such a significant price point for Bitcoin. It was like a major pit stop in the initial bull run. A lot of people were saying if it gets past 40K, then it's just it'll get ripped through it like butter kind of thing, because it's such a significant point. But that's kind of my thesis on the markets right now.
Look, I think we're about to rip people's faces off.
Yeah.
I really do. I've said all year that I thought we were going to see an all-time high for Bitcoin this year. I still think it's possible. I might be a month off. Like it might be January. Shoot me if I'm wrong. But like my thesis has been, and the reason I've been calling for this all year, taking shit on Twitter about it, and also even with my XRP predictions on Twitter, it's like I'm not here to try and say, oh, like I'm right all the time, this is going to be right. But what I've been trying to do is prove a point that crypto is going to go up.
Yeah.
Like last year, at 18,000, I was saying the bottom's in. Then we had FTX collapse and we went to 15,500. So I was off like 10%, 15%. But guess what? If you've been buying at 18,000, you're up 100% on your money in a year. But that was the point I've been trying to prove the whole time. It's like, look, no matter what's out there, no matter what anyone's saying, I'm going to give you my opinion as to why I think crypto's going up and literally try and shove it down your throat. Not because I want you to do anything about it specifically, but just because I want you to listen to what I've got to say. You don't have to do anything. But if you did do something at 18,000, you're sitting on 100% profit between now and then. And if we just look at Bitcoin's price action on a zoomed out perspective, if you look at any sort of bull market pattern, when we start to see moves and then you see downwards consolidation for the next move up and then some downwards consolidation for the next move up, that's a bullish structure. Then the next most bullish structure above that is when you see a move up and you have a sideways or a flat consolidation before another leg up. And then the next and the most bullish parabolic phase of price action is when you have an upwards consolidation and continue higher, which is what we're creating at the minute. Since we've got to 35K, we've not created or broken low time frame lows. We've just put in higher lows, higher lows, higher highs, with now the biggest FUD that we've seen in the market, and we're still currently respecting a structure like that. If you're sitting there thinking that this isn't bullish, I mean, unless things change, like things could change. If things change, I'll come out and say, look, the structure's changed, I'm a bit more wary now. But right now, I'm thinking like, we're going into up-only season. I don't know what else people are seeing. Like, what else can people possibly try and argue with me? I don't get it. We're up 100% off the lows, or 150% off the lows, depending on where you bought. Like if you bought at the start of the year, 100%. We're in an upwards consolidation phase before the next expansion. Yeah. Like, we've cooled off on the indicators. We've had a flush out in terms of sentiment. We've had an awful potential piece of news, and we haven't set a low. Yeah. We're going up. Like, I can't be argued the other way until something technically changes. Yeah. If something technically changes, fair enough, I'll have a look and I'll be like, okay, look, this is different. We've flushed out open interest. Yeah. The next stage is up, and whether we grind and then pop up, or we just start popping up, and we pop up in everything, in my opinion. Bitcoin's going to lead, and everything's going to follow. And if we look at two comparative structures, like one that I tweeted about was where, or retweeted, Arthur Hayes got fired before the last bull run. It's almost exactly the same fractal pattern position to where we are now. Or if you take us back to the 2016 cycle, the cycles look flipping similar, man. Yeah. And I don't get what people are seeing. That some of my, I'm not going to name any names. One of my good friends now, but initially one of my biggest clients in crypto, been super bearish. And one of the things he's been bearish on is Binance. Yeah. His big boogeyman in the closet, Binance, came out yesterday and it's not affected the price.
Yeah. I just want to add to that. I think my general consensus is exactly the same. For anything to change, when you say like structural like change in Bitcoin right now, there's obviously a lot of like leeway that it could potentially come down before it changes the structure, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think it will even come down to? No. Where do you think it would have to come down to for you to really change your stance on in a structural point of view?
If it starts to hit like 30, 33, then I think we probably try and close the open candle body that we've got that just spiked us up above 30s. Yeah. And if we come down to 30s, I'll be bearish. Yeah. We're not bearish, but I'm going to be like, something's wrong. Something's not
be wary at this point.
Yeah, because then the structure's completely different.
Yeah, I agree.
But right now, we're just forming higher lows and higher highs with bad sentiment.
Right now, I don't think bears really have a leg to stand on. I think a lot of bears, this is just my opinion, are kind of, when they share that negative TA about Bitcoin, they always have something to say about like the S&P 500 and how they think the traditional markets are going to take a massive dump and they're going to enter this massive recession, and they really think it's going to affect Bitcoin. First point on that is I think if we do see traditional markets fall and like US banks collapse, I personally think that's going to be good for crypto. I just really do believe that.
Well, it was historically, and the last time it happened.
Exactly, last time it happened, it was. A lot of people say, oh yeah, but back in the recession but Bitcoin's never been here whilst we've been in a recession. And another thing that our good friend John Murphy says in the book is that when the majority of the market thinks you're going one way, it's going to go the other way. Do you know what I mean? The majority, we said this again in previous episodes, the majority of the market cannot be right. It just doesn't happen like that. So a lot of people have been very fearful over this past week, and this Binance stories have kind of added to that now, and you can see that on Twitter all over the place. People are a lot more fearful, but and I just think they're in the boat that we're going to potentially retest this 30k Bitcoin, which we could do. I don't think we'll fall below that. Like you said, if we do start closing below like 30 to 28, then you'd have to kind of change your stance a little bit, at least be a bit more wary. But as it stands, there's no reason, in my opinion, to think that we're going to be testing ridiculous numbers like 24k or whatever.
We're not testing, like, I really don't think we're testing 30k. I don't think we're going anywhere near that. I don't even think we break 35. Like, let's be completely honest. If you want my complete honest opinion, and like short-term timeframes are super hard to predict.
Yeah.
Like, they're the hardest by far. I don't think we break 35. If we don't break 35, we probably don't even set a lower low than we've set in the last few days. Realistically, if you look at what we've just talked about I've just talked about like price structures in Bitcoin specifically. Add on to that what I tweeted about yesterday. DXY's coming down, it's breaking down. And I've been talking about that for months, been trying to get that breakdown, and it's starting to happen.
Yep.
The reverse repo market is bleeding, and I put a chart out saying how often, like how long it takes Bitcoin, the lag of the liquidity coming out of the RRP to go into Bitcoin. Gold's teetering on breaking 2,000. Stocks are looking like they're going to break up to new all-time highs. Like, what are people looking at? I genuinely do not get it. And the only thing that I can't work out yet is how high does Bitcoin go? Do we see the all-time highs very soon like this year? Do we have a pause out at like 50, 60k? Do altcoins rip in that period? Like, there's a world that I live in right now where we have all this narrative about like regulation, all these issues. The only real regulated cryptos are Bitcoin and XRP right now, and ETH might be pushed into that basket. But in real terms, Bitcoin and XRP is missing one cycle's worth of bullish price action. Yeah. I really think that we're on the verge of something really, really big, and that could be in terms of XRP price explosion, Bitcoin price explosion, crypto, both. Like, if you look at the 2021 cycle? No, the cycle of 2019 maybe, where I'll put a chart up for this as well, where we exploded, and I've actually put the fractal pattern and compared it before, but where we exploded out of this upwards consolidation phase and started to move really high for cryptocurrency in general, alts and Bitcoin went together. Everything started absolutely going nuts. That's where I think we are. I think we're literally on the precipice of that, and whether in the next day or two things go up or down, I don't know. But in the next week or 2 weeks, I think we'll start to see that.
Yeah, agreed. And I feel like that's all we have to say on markets at the moment.
Macro's set up for it, crypto's set up for it. Like,
we've been saying this, we've been writing about it in the newsletter, we literally wrote about it this week. We've been talking about it for the past 2 months, literally every single week in the newsletter. So it's nothing new. We don't want to bore you too much about it, but I think that's going to wrap this week up. And if anything that does happen on the back of this, we'll be covering in next week's episode, and be sure we'll be speaking about it in the newsletter. If you've not checked that out, link is in the description of this video. But until next week, we'll catch you guys later.
Peace up. Peace out.